Annika's fingers moved deftly over the espresso machine, the hiss of steam cutting through the morning chatter at Brewed Awakening, a cozy coffee shop in Clifton, Ohio. It was a crisp December day, the kind where the Midwest air bit at your knuckles and the town's main streets sparkled with early Christmas lights. Annika, 27, had been a barista here for 6 months, her hijab neatly pinned, her smile practiced despite the ache in her legs. But today the sting of her manager's words lingered. Customers are saying you're too quiet, Annika. Try to be more welcoming. She knew what welcoming meant. It wasn't her efficiency. She was the fastest on the morning rush, juggling lattes and pour-overs without a spill. It was her. Her brown skin, her Indian heritage, the way her name, Annika Patel, made some customers pause, their eyes narrowing, as if she'd appeared out of nowhere in their small, mostly white town. She'd felt it from the start. The regulars who asked for someone else to make their coffee, the co-workers who forgot to include her in break room banter, the whispers at the grocery store about foreigners taking jobs. Annika, you missed a decaf. Order! Snapped Jenna, the shift lead, leaning against the counter with a smirk. Her blonde ponytail swung as she pointed to a ticket on the board, her tone sharp enough to turn heads. I didn't miss it, Annika said, keeping her voice even as she pulled the ticket. It's in the queue, see? She pointed to the decaf brewing, her hand steady despite the heat rising in her chest. Jenna had been on her since day one, correcting her in front of customers, misplacing her schedule, blaming her for spills she hadn't caused. Annika knew it wasn't just oversight. It was a pattern, the kind of subtle racism that hid behind smiles and mistakes. Jenna shrugged, her smirk widening, just saying, pay attention. Customers notice. She walked away, leaving Annika to finish the order, the regulars' eyes flicking her way, their murmurs a low hum. Annika focused on the coffee, the routine grounding her, but her mind replayed the incident from last week. She'd been locking up late, the shop's lights dim, when she found a note slipped under the door. You don't belong here. No signature, just block letters in black ink on a torn scrap of paper. She'd crumpled it, her heart racing, and thrown it away before her roommate Priya could see, but the words had stayed, a splinter she couldn't pull out. She handed the decaf to a customer, a middle-aged man in a flannel jacket who took it without a thank you, his eyes skimming over her like she was furniture. Next time, make it quick, he muttered, turning away. Annika's smile didn't waver, but her hands shook as she wiped the counter, the notes echo loud in her mind. You don't belong here. At lunch, Annika sat in the back room, her curry smelling out of place among Jenna's tuna sandwich and the other barista's chips. She ate quickly, avoiding eye contact, but Jenna's voice cut through. Wow, Annika, that smells strong. Maybe open a window next time. The other barista, Tim, chuckled, his eyes darting away. Annika's fork paused, her voice low. It's just curry, Jenna. Same as your tuna. She met Jenna's gaze, her heart pounding, but Jenna just laughed, a sharp sound that filled the room. Relax, it's a joke, Jenna said, waving a hand. You're so sensitive. Tim stayed silent, his sandwich suddenly fascinating, and Annika finished her meal in silence, the air thick with unspoken judgment. She thought of the note, the customer's dismissal, Jenna's jokes, small cuts that bled together, each one a reminder of her place in Clifton. After her shift, Annika walked home, the cold biting through her coat. Clifton's main street was quaint, with brick storefronts and holiday wreaths, but its charm hit a harder edge. She'd moved here for the job, hoping a small town would be quieter than Columbus's hustle. Instead, she'd found a different kind of noise. The stares at the post office, the way her landlord had hesitated before renting her the apartment, muttering about keeping things orderly. Her apartment was a small unit above a hardware store, shared with Priya, a pharmacy tech who'd grown up in Dayton. As Annika climbed the stairs, she noticed the mailbox by the entrance, a metal box with their names taped on. Hers was defaced, a faint scratch across Annika Patel, not deep enough to erase but enough to notice. Her breath caught, the note from the shop flashing in her mind. She touched the scratch, her fingers cold, and hurried inside, the door's lock a small comfort. Priya was in the kitchen, stirring dal, her hijab off, her hair loose. Rough day, she asked, glancing at Annika's face. Same as usual, Annika said, dropping her bag. She didn't mention the mailbox or the note or Jenna's jab. Priya had her own battles, patients questioning her accent, co-workers joking about her exotic lunches, and Annika didn't want to add to them. But as she helped chop vegetables, The scratch on the mailbox lingered, a quiet threat she couldn't shake. That evening, Annika checked her phone, scrolling through Clifton's local X group. She joined hoping to feel part of the community, but the posts were a minefield. Complaints about outsiders changing the town, a thread about foreign food smells in apartments, a veiled jab at new hires at local shops. One post from an anonymous account hit harder. Some people don't fit in Clifton, they should know their place. The comments were worse, slurs, emojis, agreement from names she recognized, like the hardware store owner downstairs. Annika's throat tightened, her fingers hovering over the screen. She wanted to reply, to call them out, but the note, the mailbox, Jenna's smirk stopped her. She shut off her phone, the apartment's quiet pressing in, and checked the locks, her routine now a reflex. The scratch on the mailbox was a whisper, Clifton's way of saying what the note had screamed, "You don't belong here." She sat on the couch, Priya's dial simmering in the background, and thought of her parents in Columbus, their pride when she'd landed this job. "You'll make a home anywhere," her mom had said. But Clifton wasn't a home, it was a battleground, and Annika was tired of fighting alone. Annika's mornings at Brood Awakening started with a ritual, pinning her hijab, checking her smile in the mirror, bracing for Jenna's jabs. It was a frigid Thursday, the Clifton streets dusted with snow, the coffee shop's windows fogged from the morning rush. Annika worked the counter, her hands flying between espresso shots and steamed milk. But the note from last week, "You don't belong here," and the scratched mailbox haunted her, a shadow she couldn't shake. She hadn't told Priya, not wanting to burden her, but the weight was growing. Each customer's stare, a reminder of her outsider status. The rush was in full swing when Jenna called out, her voice sharp over the espresso machine's hiss. "Annika, you shorted Mrs. Harper's change again. Fix it before she complains to Lisa." Lisa was the shop's manager, a no-nonsense woman who trusted Jenna's word over anyone's. Mrs. Harper, a regular with a pinched face, stood at the counter, her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on Annika. Annika's heart sank, but she checked the receipt, her voice steady. "I gave her exact change, Jenna. $5.20. It's in the system." She showed the screen, her fingers steady despite the heat rising in her chest. She hadn't shorted anyone. She counted every penny twice, knowing Jenna was waiting for a mistake. Jenna's smirk didn't waver. "System's wrong sometimes. Just give her the change, Annika. Don't make a scene." Mrs. Harper nodded, her lips pursed, and Annika handed over $1, her hands shaking. The other barista, Tim, watched from the pastry case, his silence a betrayal. Customers whispered, their eyes on Annika, and she felt the room shrink, Clifton's judgment closing in. She pulled Jenna aside during a lull, her voice low. "Why do you keep doing this? I didn't short her and you know it. If you've got a problem, say it." Jenna's eyes narrowed, her voice a hiss. "My problem's you. Customers don't like you. Too quiet, too different. You're dragging us down. Maybe you'd be happier somewhere else." The words echoed the note, the mailbox, the X posts, and Annika's breath caught, her anger flaring. "I'm doing my job," she said, her voice firm. "Better than most. If you want me gone, you'll have to try harder." Jenna's smirk returned, a promise of more to come, and she walked away, leaving Annika with a steaming pitcher and a pounding heart. She thought of telling Lisa, but Jenna's influence was ironclad and Lisa's welcoming comment already hung over her. Annika was on thin ice and Jenna knew it. At lunch, Annika ate in the back room, her curry tucked away to avoid Jenna's comments. A new barista, Maya, a college student with a shy smile, joined her, her sandwich simple but her presence a small comfort. Maya was biracial, her dad black, her mom white, and she'd grown up in a nearby town. "Jenna's tough on you," Maya said, her voice low. "She's like that with me too, but worse with you. You okay?" Annika hesitated, the note and mailbox flashing in her mind. "I'm managing," she said, her voice cautious. "She's been at it since I started. It's not just her though, the customers, the town, it's like they don't want me here." Maya nodded, her eyes understanding. "I get it. My dad got the same when he opened his shop. If you need backup, I'm here. Jenna's not the boss of me." Her smile was small but genuine, and Annika felt a flicker of hope, a crack in Clifton's hostility. The hope didn't last. That afternoon, Annika's cash drawer came up short by $10, a discrepancy she hadn't noticed during the rush. Jenna was quick to point it out, her voice loud in front of Lisa. "Annika, you're off again," she said, her smirk triumphant. "That's the third time this month." Annika's stomach dropped. She'd counted the drawer meticulously, knowing Jenna's tricks. "I didn't take anything," she said, her voice steady. "Someone's messing with it." "Check the cameras." Lisa sighed, her face tired. "Cameras don't cover the drawer close enough, Annika. I'm noting this in your file. One more issue, and we're talking termination. Step it up." Annika nodded, her throat tight. Jenna's grin a blade in her back. She glanced at Maya, hoping for support, but Maya looked away, her courage faltering under Lisa's gaze. Annika finished her shift in silence. The shop's warmth a lie, the note's words louder than ever. "You don't belong here." After work, Annika walked home, the snow crunching under her boots, the Christmas lights mocking her with their cheer. She took a longer route, avoiding the main street stairs, but trouble found her anyway. As she passed the hardware store below her apartment, Mr. Dorsey, the owner and her landlord, was sweeping the sidewalk, his Clifton First cap low on his brow. "Annika," he called, his voice gruff. "Got a complaint from a tenant. Says your cooking's stinking up the building. Keep it under control, or we're gonna have a problem." Annika's pulse quickened, her curry lunch flashing in her mind. "My cooking's no different from anyone's, Mr. Dorsey," she said, keeping her tone polite. "I use the vent, same as everyone. Maybe they're mistaking someone else." Dorsey's eyes narrowed, his voice low. "Don't argue. This is a nice building, and folks like it quiet. You're new here, act like it." He turned back to his sweeping, his dismissal a wall. Annika's hands clenched, the mailbox's scratch and the note's threat merging with Dorsey's words. She climbed the stairs, her heart heavy, and found Priya in the kitchen, her face worried. "You okay?" Priya asked. "You look like you saw a ghost." "Just Dorsey," Annika said, dropping her bag. "Says our cooking's a problem." "It's not about the food, Priya. It's me." She didn't mention the mailbox or the note, but Priya's eyes searched hers, sensing the unspoken. Priya set down her spoon, her voice fierce. "Screw him. We pay rent, same as anyone. You want me to talk to him? I'm not scared of that old grump." Annika shook her head, a tired smile breaking through. "Thanks, but it won't help. He's just one piece of it. The shop, the town, they're all saying the same thing." Priya's face softened, her voice low. "You don't have to stay, Annika. Columbus isn't far. Your parents would love to have you back. This place isn't worth it." Annika's throat tightened, Priya's words echoing her own doubts. "I know," she said, "but running feels like letting them win. I need to figure this out." That night, Annika checked the X group again, her fingers hesitant. A new post had appeared, anonymous but pointed. "Brood Awakening's gone downhill. New staff don't know their place." The comments were a flood, slurs, complaints about foreigners, a few naming Annika directly, calling her unfriendly, out of place. One user with Dorsey's initials wrote, "Time to clean up our town." Annika's hands shook, her eyes burning. She wanted to scream, to post a reply, to make Clifton see her. Annika Patel, born in Ohio, a barista who loved her job, a woman who just wanted a home. But the note, the mailbox, Jenna's smirk stopped her. She shut off her phone, the apartment's quiet, a heavy blanket, and checked the locks, her heart racing. Clifton was drawing a line, and Annika was on the wrong side. She sat on the couch, Priya's dowel cooling on the stove, and thought of her parents, their immigrant dreams, her own stubborn hope. Clifton wasn't the home she'd wanted, but it was the one she had, and she wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. Annika's days at Brood Awakening became a test of endurance, each shift a gauntlet of Jenna's barbs and customers' stares. It was Friday, the Clifton air heavy with the promise of more snow, the coffee shop packed with holiday shoppers. Annika worked the counter, her hijab pinned tightly, her movements precise despite the weight of the note. "You don't belong here," and the scratched mailbox. She hadn't told Priya about either, but the X-posts, Dorsey's complaint, and Jenna's latest setup were eroding her resolve. Each jab a reminder of Clifton's verdict. The morning rush was brutal, orders piling up as Annika juggled cappuccinos and drip coffees. Maya was on the pastry case, her quick smiles a small comfort, but Jenna hovered, her eyes sharp. Mid-rush, a customer, Mr. Callahan, a regular with a Clifton First sticker on his thermos, slammed his latte on the counter. "This is cold," he barked, his voice loud enough to turn heads. "You messed it up, girl." Annika's heart raced, but she checked the order, her voice calm. "I'm sorry, Mr. Callahan. I'll remake it right now." She knew the latte was hot. She'd steamed it herself, but Callahan's glare was unrelenting, his anger a performance for the crowd. Jenna swooped in, her smirk triumphant. "Annika, this is the second complaint today. You're slowing us down. Get it together. She turned to Callahan, her voice syrupy. I'll handle this, sir. Sorry for the trouble. Annika remade the latte, her hands shaking, the shop's chatter a dull roar. She knew Callahan's complaint was a lie, Jenna's doing like the shorted drawer, but proving it was impossible. Maya caught her eye, her expression apologetic, but she stayed silent, her courage faltering under Jenna's influence. Annika handed Callahan the new latte, his grunt of acknowledgement the only response, and returned to the counter, her chest tight with humiliation. The real blow came at noon. Lisa called Annika to the back office, her face stern. Annika, we've had another issue, she said, holding up a receipt. Callahan says you shorted him on change, and your drawer's off again. $20 this time. I warned you last week. This is serious. Annika's stomach dropped, her voice steady despite the panic. I didn't short him, Lisa. I counted the change twice, and the drawer. I checked it at the start of my shift. Someone's tampering with it. Please check the cameras. Lisa sighed, her eyes avoiding Annika's. The cameras don't show the drawer clearly. You know that. I'm putting you on probation, Annika. One more mistake, and you're out. You need to prove you belong here. The words, prove you belong, echoed the note, the ex-post, Dorsey's sneer, and Annika's throat tightened. I am proving it, she said, her voice shaking. I'm the fastest barista here. This isn't about my work. It's about me. Lisa's face hardened, her voice cold. Don't make accusations, Annika. Focus on your job, that's all. She dismissed her, and Annika left the office. Jenna's smirk waiting outside, a silent victory. At lunch, Annika sat in the back room, her curry untouched, Maya beside her. That was bullshit, Maya whispered, her voice low. I saw Jenna near your drawer before the rush. She's setting you up. I should have said something. Annika's heart lifted, then sank. Why didn't you? She asked, her voice soft but pointed. Maya's eyes dropped, her voice trembling. I'm scared. Jenna's got Lisa wrapped around her finger and my scholarship depends on this job. But I'm sorry, Annika. I'll back you up next time, I swear. Annika nodded, gratitude mixing with frustration. Thanks, Maya. Just be careful. Jenna doesn't play fair. She ate in silence, the flicker of Maya's support a small light in Clifton's darkness, but the probation loomed, a noose tightening around her. That afternoon, the neighborhood struck again. Annika was walking home, her scarf tight against the wind, when she saw a group of teens outside the hardware store, their laughter sharp. One was Tommy, Dorsey's nephew, a lanky kid with a Clifton First hoodie. As Annika approached, he stepped into her path, his grin wide. Yo, coffee girl, you still here? Thought you'd be gone by now. Annika's pulse quickened, the mailbox's scratch flashing in her mind. Move, Tommy, she said, her voice firm. I'm not in the mood, his friends laughed, egging him on. Heard you're screwing up at the shop, Tommy said, his voice loud. Maybe you should go back to where you came from. Clifton's for us, not you. The words mirrored the note, the ex-post, and Annika's hands clenched, her anger flaring. I was born in Ohio, she said, stepping closer. This is my home. You don't get to decide who belongs. Tommy's grin faltered, but he didn't back down. Keep talking, and you'll see what happens. He stepped aside, his friend's laughter chasing Annika as she climbed the stairs to her apartment, her heart pounding. Inside, Priya was on the couch, her pharmacy notes spread out, her face worried as Annika dropped her bag. What's wrong? Priya asked. You look shaken. Annika hesitated, then told her about Tommy's confrontation, the shorted drawer, Lisa's probation. She didn't mention the note or the mailbox, but Priya's eyes narrowed, sensing more. That's not just kids, Priya said, her voice fierce. That's hate, Annika. You can't keep taking this. Let's talk to Dorsey or the police or, hell, let's move. Columbus is an hour away. Annika sank onto the couch, her voice breaking. I want to fight, Priya. I love this job, this town, even if it hates me. But it's too much sometimes. Priya's hand found hers, her voice soft. You're stronger than they are, but you don't have to prove it by staying. You're worth more than their crap. Annika nodded, tears prickling, but the thought of leaving felt like surrender, a betrayal of the home she'd tried to build. She thought of her parents, their sacrifices, her own stubborn hope. Clifton was breaking her, but she wasn't ready to let it win. That night, Annika found a new note slipped under the apartment door, the handwriting matching the first. Leave before it's too late. No signature, just the words, stark and threatening. Her breath caught, her hands trembling as she hid it in her drawer, away from Priya's eyes. She checked the locks, her routine a reflex, and sat at the kitchen table, the note's weight crushing her. She opened the X group, her fingers hesitant. A new post was gaining traction. Time to take back our shops. Some people don't belong. The comments named her Anika Patel, the problem barista, the outsider. One, from an account linked to Callahan, read, "She'll learn her place soon." Anika's heart raced, the note and posts a chorus of hate. Clifton's, line drawn in bold. She thought of calling her parents, but their worry would only deepen her own. She thought of Maya's promise, Priya's plea, the life she'd imagined in Clifton. The town was a storm, its prejudice relentless, and Anika wasn't sure if she could outlast it, or if she should even try. Anika's resolve was a fragile thread, stretched taut by Clifton's relentless hostility. It was Monday, a week after the second note. "Leave before it's too late" had slipped under her apartment door, joining the first in her drawer, their words a constant weight. She hadn't told Priya, fearing it would push her roommate to confront Dorsey or the police, but the ex-post, Jenna's sabotage, and Tommy's taunt were breaking her. Each morning at Brood Awakening, she pinned her hijab, braced her smile, and stepped into a battle she wasn't sure she could win. The coffee shop was quieter today, the holiday rush easing, but the air was heavy with tension. Anika worked the counter, her movements mechanical, her probation a sword over her head. Maya was on the pastry case, her nods a small comfort, but Jenna's presence was a storm, her smirk sharper since Lisa's warning. Mid-morning, a new incident struck. Anika's cash drawer was short again, this time by $50, and a customer, Mrs. Reynolds, a friend of Callahan's, claimed her latte was wrong, her voice loud enough to draw eyes. "You're slipping, Anika," Jenna said, her tone dripping with false concern as she fixed the latte. "Lisa's not gonna like this." "Mrs." Reynolds nodded, her eyes cold, and Anika knew it was another setup, the drawer tampered with, the complaint rehearsed. She checked the receipt, her voice steady. "The latte was right, Jenna, and I counted the drawer at open." "Someone's messing with it." Jenna's smirk didn't waver. "Prove it or take the hit. Customers don't lie." Maya hesitated, her eyes flicking to Anika, but stayed silent, her promise of backup crumbling under Jenna's glare. Lisa called Anika to the office before lunch, her face grim. "Anika, this is the third shortage," she said, "and Reynolds is furious. I gave you a chance, but I can't keep you on. You're terminated, effective immediately." Anika's heart sank, her voice shaking. "Lisa, this isn't me. Jenna's been setting me up, shorting the drawer, pushing complaints. Maya saw her near it last week. Please check the logs, talk to her." Lisa's eyes avoided hers, her voice cold. "Maya didn't see anything concrete. I can't run a shop on accusations. Clean out your locker and go." Anika left the office, her vision blurring, Jenna's triumphant grin waiting outside. Maya approached, her voice a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Anika. I should have spoken up." "Jenna, she scared me." Anika nodded, her throat too tight to speak, and gathered her things. The shop's warmth a cruel lie as she walked out, the bell above the door jangling her exit. At home, Anika sank onto the couch, her apron still on, the notes in her drawer a silent accusation. Priya came home early, her pharmacy shift cut short, and saw Anika's face. "What happened?" she demanded, dropping her bag. Anika told her everything. The firing, Jenna's setup, the latest note, the mailbox scratch, Tommy's threat. The words spilled out, her voice breaking, and Priya's eyes blazed with fury. "This is a hate campaign," she said, her voice fierce. "We're not letting this slide. We're reporting the notes, talking to a lawyer, getting out of this hellhole. You're not fighting alone." Anika's tears fell, her resolve crumbling. "I wanted to make it work, Priya. I thought I could belong here. But they've won. I'm done." Priya knelt beside her, her hands warm. "They haven't won. You're stronger than they'll ever be. But staying's not worth your soul. Let's go back to Columbus, Anika. We'll fight from there. Together." Anika nodded, the weight of Clifton lifting slightly. She thought of her parents, their pride, the job she'd loved despite its thorns. Leaving wasn't defeat, it was survival, a choice to reclaim her worth. That evening, the neighborhood struck its final blow. Anika was packing her things, Priya sorting boxes, when a rock crashed through their window, glass shattering across the floor. A note was tied to it, the same handwriting. "Get out now." Anika's breath caught, her hands trembling as Priya grabbed her phone, dialing the police. "This is vandalism," Priya snapped. "We've got notes, threats, do your job." The police arrived, 2 officers with blank faces, one a cousin of Dorsey's. "Probably kids," he said, taking photos of the rock and note. "Hard to prove who did it." We'll talk to some folks, but don't get your hopes up. Annika's anger flared, her voice steady. This isn't kids, it's targeted. Notes, ex post, my firing. I'm filing a report and I'm not stopping there. She handed over copies of the notes, her evidence a shield. The officer's skepticism didn't waver, but he took them, muttering about following protocol. Priya's friend, a law student in Columbus, arrived the next day, her laptop open as they documented everything. Notes, screenshots, Maya's hesitant, testimony recorded on Anika's phone. This is workplace harassment and a hate crime, the friend said. We've got a case against the shop and a civil suit against the town if the police don't act. You're not alone, Annika. Annika's heart lifted, the flicker of justice, a small light. She thought of Maya's apology, Priya's fierce loyalty, her parents' unwavering love. Clifton had tried to erase her, but she was more than its hate. The following week, Annika and Priya moved to Columbus, Annika landing a barista job at a diverse cafe where her hijab drew smiles, not stares. She enrolled in night classes, aiming for a business degree, her dream of opening her own shop rekindled. The lawsuit against Brood Awakening was filed, with Maya agreeing to testify, her courage growing. The case against Clifton was slower, the police dragging their feet. But Annika's lawyer was relentless, and the ex-posts were under investigation for incitement. Annika kept the notes, not as wounds but as proof of her fight. She called her parents, their voices warm with pride, and visited them often, their home a haven. Priya thrived in Columbus, her pharmacy job a fresh start, and their new apartment buzzed with laughter, dal simmering on the stove. Clifton's shadow faded, replaced by a city that saw Annika Patel, Ohio-born, resilient, home. Word count for this part, approximately 4,600 characters. Total, approximately 18,400 characters. The story concludes with Annika's decision to leave Clifton, not as defeat, but as a reclaiming of her worth, supported by Priya in a budding legal fight, reflecting real-world patterns of resilience against localized racism. Note, the story is below the 30,000 character target due to the focus on a concise, impactful ending. I can add an epilogue or extend earlier parts if needed. Just let me know.